Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first webinar in our 2024-2025 Conversations with the Dean series. Now, I'm not the Dean. I'm Tony Jack. I have the great fortune of being the Faculty Director of the Newberry Center and the Associate Professor of Higher Education Leadership here at BU and Wheelock. I'm thrilled to be here with BU Wheelock's new Dean, Dr. Penny Bishop. As some of you know, the focus of this webinar series is to engage with scholars and leaders here at BU Wheelock on current topics of great import. We hold these webinars each month, and our discussions are moderated by the Dean. This month, we called an audible. It's not too often when we get to welcome a new Dean, a new person within our community, and introductions are so important. So we turned the tables in a fun way. I'm taking the reins today and giving you a chance to get acquainted with Dr. Bishop. After this month, you'll be in much more capable hands and you'll be able to be met on Zoom with Dr. Bishop. I'm excited to be here because I love New England, right? The start of the school year. Being from Miami, we have basically no seasons except for summer and spring. We don't get that kaleidoscope of yellows, greens, oranges, golds, and that the leaves are soon to be turning in the fall. It reminds me of the importance of new beginnings, which I think is a great place for us to start today in welcoming Dean Bishop to this conversation and to Wheelock once again.
Thank you, Tony.
It's awesome to be in conversation with you. And I want to actually pause there for a second and to remind everyone on the Zoom call today that this is a conversation. Please join us in the chat, send questions, send comments. We have somebody who is reading the chats while we are in this conversation. So please join us in conversation. And then we also will open up the Q&A towards the end as well. So as a matter of course, in the importance of introductions, let me just say a word about our new dean, right? This is like just awesome, right? I'm kind of new to Wheelock, getting my feet wet, and then I get to be in conversation with you. So Dr. Penny Bishop joined BU as dean on August 1st, 2024. She comes to BU most recently from the University of Maine, where she was dean of the College of Education and Human Development. Dean Bishop began her career in higher education as a faculty member at the University of Vermont in 1998, where she served as an associate dean of their College of Education and Social Services from 2014 to 2020, and founding director of the Tarrant Institute for Innovative Education from 2009 to 2017. A scholar of early adolescence and middle grade education, and a former middle school teacher herself, Dr. Bishop has published several books on education reform, along with dozens of widely cited book chapters and articles in top-tier journals. So, Penny, once again, welcome. I'm excited for this conversation, and I'm sure our audience is as well.
Thanks so much, Tony. I'm really delighted to be here both today with you and just overall here at BU Wheelock.
Yeah. So we're going to jump in. And again, we encourage the audience throughout the discussion to share questions in the Q&A box, which we'll do our best to address either within the conversation itself, because somebody can insert them into give us a message, like somebody's talking about something very pertinent right now, but also towards the end, we'll give everybody a chance. So I've been a fan of game shows for a long time, from Card Sharks to Jeopardy, from Hollywood Squares to America Says. And one of my favorite parts is when the host gets to meet the contestant. So Penny, come on down. You're the next contestant on Conversations with the Dean. So I want to do like just a quick word lightning round just to get us talking. Favorite color?
Purple.
I like that as an Amherst alum.
It must have been planted by your shirt, I think.
Yeah, well, people always find it concerning, but I'm actually colorblind, so I can't distinguish between colors. But I do know what associates with it. So, book on your nightstand right now.
Oh, so I'm one of those people that has a stack of books on my nightstand, but one that I want to give a shout out to is Jim Crow's Pink Slip by Leslie Fenwick. Just a terrific read.
Awesome. The thing you are most excited about living in a new city?
Food.
Nice. Well,
How'd I
Boston
do?
has,
Did I progress to the next level of the game show?
yes,
Okay.
yes, you did. And Boston has a much more diverse culinary scene than we get the reputation for, though you have to find it a little bit. So this is a back to school webinar. So let's kick off with one of your favorite first day of school memories, either as a former teacher, college administrator, parent, or even as a student.
So Tony, since it's the most recent, I'm going to go with this year. Um, and the moment that I had when I walked into our building on the first day of classes was so fun because our amazing advisors here at BU Wheelock set up a photo station in the lobby. And all of our students could come in and take first day photos, which is for many people I know a real rite of passage.
Mhm.
And so even our life-size cardboard cutout of our founder, Lucy Wheelock, or Flat Lucy, as I've learned she is affectionately known, she got in on the fun and was wearing one of those things that you put around your neck that say like what grade you're
Mhm.
going into. As a parent, I always really loved that moment, and much more than my kids did, I think.
Um, yeah, the how many years you've been in school, what your teacher name is, what you're doing. Yeah, I love that PhD students get on,
Yeah.
get to be part of that because this is my 23rd year of school, and you like just keep pushing. You got it. You almost done. You know, this year can be best characterized by two words: new beginnings. For Wheelock, we have you as our new dean. At BU, we also have a new president in Melissa Gilliam. What does what does being present in this moment mean for you? I mean, actually, let me phrase that. What does being present in this moment mean to and for you?
Hmm. Hmm. Thanks for that question, Tony. It is an extraordinary time to be here at BU, and President Gilliam's recent inauguration served to underscore that. It's really a time of excitement, I think of optimism, of bold vision. The president talks about providing a singular and transformative educational experience for our students, and one that all qualified students can access, regardless of background. And you, Tony, as a scholar who's grappled deeply with issues of access to post-secondary education, know how incredibly important and absolutely critical and challenging that work is. So for me, I guess being present in this moment means not only upholding that bold vision that I'm so excited to be a part of, but also co-constructing the path to get there. And I think it also means constantly striving to be a place where we promote civil discourse, especially during these really challenging and often divisive times. I think the president's new initiative on living our values will advance that work here on our campus. And I'm really proud that she's chosen one of our faculty members, Dr. Kimberly Howard, to help lead that. I think it is a great, it's just a great outcome for us as BU Wheelock to help lead in this space.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting because it's taking us in new directions. It's not a waiting period, right? It doesn't seem like neither you nor the president are taking that kind of like victory lap year where you get to basically just meet people. It's a lot of policy, a lot of directed action is being put into place, and that's really just exciting to see people who are looking to shape the school from Jump Street, right? We're starting off and just going um, turning into like really kind of redirecting the ship, right? It's like, okay, we know, and I'm going to get to, ironic enough, our guide star in a few seconds, but it's like, how do we keep moving towards that North Star? How do we keep that momentum in doing what we do well,
Mhm.
getting better at what we do well, but also showing up so many other things that we want to expand into? And so now turning to Wheelock specifically, you and I kind of like both new to BU. You newer than I. I love to know what caught your eye about BU and especially about this job to lead Wheelock.
Mhm. I get asked that question a lot, and I kind of always want to say, who wouldn't want this job? But And that is really kind of my honest reaction, but in a more detailed way, I'll say that I couldn't really turn down the opportunity to lead a college that's so deeply and explicitly committed to transforming inequitable systems. That's really what our Guide Star is all about. And for someone who does work in the area that I work in at this point in my career, that is exactly the work I want to be doing. So one of the many impressive things that my predecessor, David Char, did was to lead this college community in the development of its Guide Star and action plan, a strategic plan rather. And the Guide Star makes clear that BU Wheelock is dedicated to transforming systems, especially those that are that impact learning and human development. And so in thinking about that, that's a complex package. It's a little long for a tagline, but when you have a whole academic community that's committed to this kind of change, with everyone sort of rowing in the same direction, it's remarkable. And even more importantly, it's not just on paper or online. You don't have to look far to see the impact that's followed. And that was something that was really energizing when I interviewed for the position, to just talk to so many people about our programs, practices, our research. You see our programs and courses are deeply rooted in humanizing pedagogy and anti-racist curriculum. Every year we graduate alumni who take these values and practices into their education, human development professions. Our research, we have so many exciting examples of research that seeks to understand and disrupt inequity in a variety of places on various levels, especially though at the systems level, and often by informing policy and often in authentic partnership with communities. I think that's something really distinctive about the work we do.
Yeah, that's a great place, and you're absolutely right. I think David Chart set Wheelock on an amazing foundation to be able to really accelerate its progress towards achieving, so getting closer and closer to those objectives, right? It has that North Star. It has that parameters in which we are going to evaluate ourselves, that we are going to think about opportunities to engage the public, right? And I think about, for example, the work of Raul Fernandez in Else with Me, right? His work on segregation and being able to be chairing a committee for the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that actually produced a major report that is looking at the legacy of Brown v. Board of Education, but also more broadly, the legacy of redlining and blockbusting and land theft that we have experienced, right? The state of segregation fundamentally shapes the way in which students learn, what healthy areas they have access to, right? Access to a tree is not a given.
Yeah.
Access to clean air, right? We're talking about all of these higher order things, but when you think about who lives in food deserts versus food swamps,
Mm-hmm.
who lives next to a Whole Foods or someplace they can actually get things,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't study when you're not hungry. But then when you also look at the compounding effects of segregation, and it's just like, we want to see how we can help our students. But even if we give our students that miracle bullet, which was everybody thought was going to be the laptop or the iPad, right? When everyone thought that, these kind of like technology things, but where they're going home to matters so much about how they're able to focus. And I think Raul working with the State Department, right? Not State Department, sorry, with the state in the Department of Education, it kind of shows that in the field, in the discipline, in the larger communities that we are in, whether it's local, whether it's state or national or federal, and across boundaries, the research that we do here really does matter for the people who live around us, as well as those who learn from us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tony, that's so well said, and I think Raul's work is a great example of that, and work done in partnership with others. I'm thinking too of Dr. Olivia Chee's work that she's done in forecasting educator diversity in the Commonwealth, working in partnership with Latinos for Education, Mass Inc. And I think that kind of work that's done in partnership that can also inform policy and and shaping conversations in the State House about boosting teacher diversity is just, it's just another example. Or the networked improvement community work in Boston Public Schools, led by Dr. Ariel Tickner-Wagner and Hardin Coleman, and the idea of developing and implementing racial equity plans in schools. Those are just a few really strong examples of the kind of work that happens here. It's easy to get excited about. It's easy to make clear to others why I would want to come here, and it's really hard to do. So.
So as someone now, as the torch has been passed to lead the school, and you are going to put your own imprint in this generation of not just students, undergraduates and graduate students, doctoral students, postdocs, and researchers, and also faculty. Where do you see the role of engaged scholarship at BU? We talked about, Olivia and Raul's work and the way in which, right, the Commonwealth is both um, experiment and beneficiary of what well-grounded, right, theoretically informed research can and should do. Where do you, as dean and scholar, see the role of engaged research that speaks to and works with those beyond one's discipline?
Mm-hmm. I think that it's definitional, Tony, to who we are as a group of scholars and activists here in BU Wheelock. I think that engaged scholarship, breaking new ground, but also being directly applicable to broader public issues is precisely what we do well and care deeply about. And if you look at our strategic plan, you'll see it's a hallmark of BU Wheelock. And so again, another thing that I was really drawn here for, we've been talking recently about convergent research, and we've been doing that at the university overall, and certainly here in our college, what it means to go beyond interdisciplinarity to be truly convergent. And I'm really proud that a theme that emerged right away in our college, as we talked about it, was this idea that our local and global partners, so the communities with whom we partner on research, were as critical as those within the BU community. So when we were looking at how we were even framing the question of assets related to convergent research, multiple people in our community raised at almost the same time, yes, and our partners are critical to this work. They are assets. They are so important to how we're doing this. So I think as we think about truly engaged scholarship, it's really about answering critical questions that are relevant to public and community issues. And I think that's really a hallmark of what we do. So I'm really excited to move forward with it.
Awesome. I wanted to insert a quick question actually um, from the audience, if I may. Martha Russell asked the question. We also are voting on a number of things in the state about, well, it's election season, so we're voting on a whole bunch of things. But one of the questions is about question 2: should passing MCAS be required to get a high school diploma? How do you think that what is the role of Wheelock engaging in this important conversation? Because I'm thinking about the lessons learned from Operation Varsity Blues that was handled here in the State House. I'm thinking about the Boston valedictorian study, which was a beautiful and painful article written by the Boston Globe to show the long-standing impact of poverty and inequality, even on our quote unquote best and brightest. How does Where does Wheelock stand, especially with this engaged scholarship, to be part of this debate?
It's such a good question, and I think there's a terrific place for Wheelock in that conversation. There are many places for us in that conversation. As we know, assessment is really complex and also inherently biased. And so we know that inevitably certain populations are disadvantaged by certain kinds of evaluation. You've been in Massachusetts longer than I, so I'll turn the table and ask you this question after I provide some thoughts. But I will say that you know, we are a research hub. We are absolutely folks who should be helping to ask and answer questions. Our Wheelock Education Policy Center, or WEPIC as we shorthand it around here, does work all across the country, asking and answering thorny questions with data to inform policy. So that's we are precisely the home to kind of ask these questions and do it in partnership with policymakers and with others. So we play a big part in that. I come from, most recently, from 2 states that have adopted wide-scale sort of personalized learning approaches with proficiency-based graduation requirements. So being in this state is quite different for me. And so I'm learning I come here with an understanding of how complex it is to build out a system that is more comprehensive. And I'm learning about sort of the legacy of this test in particular in Massachusetts. How about you, Tony?
I often believe that tests, especially standardized tests, and the people who write them, it shows the results actually show more about how many resources a student or an applicant has in their home as compared to even at their school. And if we are going to put so much weight on a test, I think again the Boston valedictorian study really showed that even across our high schools there is great inequality.
Mhm.
And so are the tests, there's one thing is, there's one thing to be equitable in us, there's way we can strive for equality and equity, but the two are not always one and the same, especially when people are starting on very different starting points. So um, if we are going to invest in the test, are we actually going to be investing in the getting our students prepared for it? And that is more than just what you teach. That is, are we going to do social services? Are we doing the language immersion? Are we doing a whole host of things around it? So high stakes testing is never, it's almost never an equitable process. It's often a gatekeeping one. And given that many employers are even removing the need for a high school diploma, I'm not for a college diploma to have certain jobs, even at the state house, it makes us question what credentials are there to be shiny on someone's shoulder or actually needed. So that is, my answer. So um, I think, yeah. So I'm glad that we had a conversation about engaged scholarship because that's something that's central to how I came up as a scholar, though it was more like finding a model in the
Mm.
midst of other people who don't necessarily engage with it. So William Julius Wilson was my advisor, and I was able to see how he was able to set policies for U.S. presidents and engage in larger ways with the policy and of the U.S. government, of states, of cities. And so I'm glad to know that Wheelock is still giving new life to what being an engaged scholar is.
Well, Tony, honestly, I think you're a really great example and an inspiration of deep and robust scholarship. And one piece that really resonated with me about your recent book was your observation about the student labor market on campus and how it's largely
Mm,
segregated by social class. And I wanted to tell you just a brief story. As you know, I'm a first-generation college student myself. And when I was in college, my very first work study job, which was called work study at that time, was cleaning the dorm I lived in. And people in the dorm would have parties, and I would be the person cleaning up after the parties. And I went home over winter break and talked to a friend of mine who was at a different college and who was also in a very different social class. Her father was a professor at a nearby college, and she, in her job was driving around the state conducting interviews. And I had that moment where I didn't have at the time the language
Yeah.
that you use so eloquently in your book to describe what was happening there. But it was a strong sort of moment of cognitive dissonance for me. And you know in your book that this isn't new, of course, and that lower income students have long taken on duties within their families, that their time and their money has long been earmarked. And you identified some things that colleges and universities can do to take up this issue. I was hoping you'd just talk a little bit more about that. I know that I'm turning the table a little bit again,
I thought I was the one doing the
but it's
doing
just
the interview.
but it was so
Yeah.
powerful for me personally. I was just hoping you might share a little wisdom.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because um I'll put it this way. When I was doing class dismiss, I asked myself a question. Now that we know, what are we going to do about it?
Mm,
Right. And so when I think about the inequalities on campus, it's about actually not just talking about it, framing it in a pretty way and then not doing anything. And so it was important for me to have a conversation about something that fundamentally shaped my life, right? How often I work. And when you say that it's shaped by social class, like the job market, upper middle class students were more likely to be an assistant of some sort, whether it's a course assistant, a
mm,
teaching assistant, a research assistant, something, right? Like everything they were doing that students reported to me, they were with a faculty member or an administrator in one of those quote unquote like life of the mind positions.
mm,
Lower income students were more likely to be in manual labor positions, whether in food services or janitorial. And I noticed this divide and I wondered why. And part of the reason why is because the jobs that they were used to at home, right? Um, that my brother's a janitor, my mom's a security guard. Those were literally the first two jobs I had in college as well. They were more straightforward in how you got those jobs,
mhm,
right? Because universities take a very hands-off approach when it comes to federal work study or any kind of options when it comes to work. They rely on websites
mm,
like Handshake and job fairs. But job fairs aren't neutral, right? Not everybody knows what business casual is. Not everybody knows how to network at an event and go and get what do you call it, like a business cards or LinkedIn
mm,
acceptances, right? Yet all the assistantship jobs are handed out in office hours where we know lower income students feel less comfortable. First gen students feel less comfortable. So it's not just that there's a class segregated labor market, it's like literally the practices of the university and the
mm,
policies of the universities make it so. And then when COVID hit,
mhm,
all the lower income students lost out on their hours because they had to be in person for those jobs. But the wealthier students actually not only kept working, but some of them got more hours because all teaching went online and
mhm,
everybody had to be, FaceTime even more.
mhm,
And I highlight that because 40% of all students work, right? Estimates is 20 as late as 2020, like 40% across the income distribution, like that's a lot of students. And of course, it gets higher the lower you go. But I'm talking about on-campus labor, which we know nothing about.
mhm,
And so I wanted to actually say, well, universities, here's the issue, and here are the consequences. Some jobs pay money, others pay additional forms of capital, letters of recommendation, introduction to cover the events, all the extras, right? We can fix this. And so the University of Nebraska said, we're going to make all of our jobs, you can't hand them out like Halloween candy at office hours, right? All jobs need to be posted on one single platform that everyone has access to. Northeastern University, right up the street, actually had done this for years. Beyond their co-op model, all of their work-related offices are in one place. Whether
mhm,
it's an internship, career services, on-campus work, they centralize something that allows more contact over time with people, which allows what Becca Bassett at the University of Arkansas shows has more rapport and comfort with that office.
Mm.
And so it's not just about documenting the inequality, but it's about showing the larger consequences of it, as well as presenting college with options, like reasonable options, not uber expensive, like, well, if we were all like multi-billion dollar institutions, like these are like reasonable things that we can do to minimize it because we all know jobs now lead to careers later because of the exposure, the experience, and the connections.
Mhm. Tony, thank you so much. It makes me think of all the things that we could be doing, here. And it's an example of how, as we say in our guide star, that we're focused on transforming systems, unjust systems or inequitable systems, and taking it to that level to say, okay, how do we address this at a university level or above is right on. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to geek out about, about research, and especially something I spent the last 3 to 4 years engaged in, which actually brings me to a question I had a question I had for you, because I've always been maybe a little bit jealous. Let's just say that, but I'll frame it more academically. Like, I've always wanted to see more sociological research
Mm.
on the middle school years in students. It is such an important time of students' lives, and we've seen so many changes and challenges that they face with respect to technology and social media and a whole host of things, right? And I think about a lot of my research is about the long view of capital accumulation, the long view of how inequality shapes students' lives. So the middle school year has always been fascinating to me. And so I was excited to learn about your own scholarship focused on middle school years and adolescent development, when you were at UVM and you co-founded an institute that worked really closely with schools navigating this unique period in students' lives. Like, oftentimes when we engage with deans, we engage with them in their administrative role.
Mhm.
Um, but you were a teacher and a researcher first. And I wanted just to have an opportunity, especially with the question that you posed to me about my research. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your own research?
Mhm.
And if you want, like, how do you connect that research and being through the from the tenure track position to being an engaged scholar yourself, how do
Mhm.
you foresee that working with, the graduate students and the PhD students and the faculty here at Wheelock?
Mm. Thanks for that question. I appreciate that you said this unique age group because um, so much of this work of the work of middle grades education or research on early adolescence is about the acknowledgement that it is in fact a unique developmental stage. And when you look at our history, we have not really,
Hmm.
as a nation, uh, acknowledged that. We really haven't grappled with it. In fact, we don't know what to do with middle schoolers. We put them in lots of different building configurations: K-8s, 5-8, 7-8, 6-8, 7-12, 8-12, you name it, they're in it. And rarely are those decisions made based on research. Much more often they're based on school population or, a bubble. They're the ones that get moved from building to building, especially in rural settings, but also in urban settings. They're the group we move when we run out of room. And this has been the case for over a century in the U.S. and as well as far away as New Zealand. So it's not necessarily unique to this country. Um, it's an era in which you are encountering as a person more change than any other time in your life except birth to age 3. And yet you're conscious of it during middle school. And it's also problematic because too few people study the age group and appropriate learning environments for that age group. We treat them like tall first graders or short high school students, and neither is developmentally appropriate. And yet it's a time of life where you're starting to grapple with the quintessential questions of life. Remarkable identity development is happening then. And fortunately, over the past, 40 years or so, we have increasingly robust research guiding us to plan learning environments and learning experiences that are responsive to their nature and needs. So that's really what my work has been about. It's about understanding the nature, the developmental nature of the age group, but also more complex than that, sort of the identity needs of that age group, and thinking about what learning environments would be like if we were truly responsive to them. And more recently than that, it's been, for me, my work has been about flipping the narrative a bit. So society has, as most people will agree, a pretty deficit attitude toward young adolescents, Tony. So if I were to say, when you ask me what I do and I say I'm a middle school teacher, what do you think the typical response is?
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, exactly. Or bless your heart, or better you than me, or I could never do that, right? It's just one after another after another. And any
Mhm.
middle school teacher out there listening will be nodding their head right now. It's the rare moment when you get something other than that. And then when we talk about the age group, it's amazing to me. I hear people call them hormones with legs, smelly, awkward, you name it. And if here's the thing, Tony, if we talked about any other group the way we talk about middle schoolers, we would rightly be called racist, ageist, sexist, insert. And they hear us talking about them in that way. And yet they're human beings in their own right with
Mhm.
amazing capacity. They're fully, they're not becoming, they exist. And so so later on in my career, I've really tried to do some things to flip that narrative around, because I think their potential is extraordinary as well. So yes, you asked about sort of research and the
Yeah.
trajectory, but those are kind of the big ideas that I grapple with a lot. Um, and I think as I think about my leadership and how challenging it is to save time and space for scholarship, I think it's also really, really important because we have undergrad researchers, we have graduate students, we have doctoral students, we have faculty here. This is an institution of higher education, and one of the things that we contribute is knowledge. And so finding the gaps in what the knowledge is and contributing to them is our role. And so I'm fortunate that I've been able to stay connected with a number of my collaborators nationally to keep a toe in, but it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge in this role.
And I want to it's about staying connected. You and I are relatively new to BU and to Wheelock.
Mhm.
And especially with respect to Wheelock, we are inheriting a school that has two histories coming
Mm,
together as one.
yeah.
We weren't here for either one of the two. We have inherited Wheelock as today. How do we engage with both the School of Education and Wheelock alumni
Mm,
as we move forward with this new phase of the institution?
mm,
When you said staying connected, I was just like, this question
yeah.
came up in the Q&A that the audience has posed. I thought it's a great one to grapple with.
Mm. Um, it's such a good question. I welcome this question. It is part of what I love about this job is really having the opportunity to meet alumni and to understand their stories, their trajectories, where they've been since they were here at SED or here at Wheelock. It is a real privilege, I think, as far as as being a dean goes, to spend time with alumni. And it has been an interesting one here because we do have this, we have three sets of alumni. We have the historic Wheelock, historic SED or School of
Yes.
Education, and then we have our newest BU Wheelocks. So that's really exciting, and it also has presented some challenges. So I think as with any time that a unit is experiences a merger, there is inevitably a loss of identity. There's the potential for people to worry about what happens next, and will the legacy be will the legacy continue? So I think that there has been a lot of turmoil historically with that whole transition and merger, and it's not surprising. And I've met so many wonderful people from all three of those groups. And I can say that the exciting thing for me is that what unites us is this strong commitment to improving the lives of others, of improving the lives of children and families. It's a through line that that you don't have to force. So it's really about honoring the legacies that came before us, and then using that to leverage our alumni base to move forward in even more powerful ways. I think one of the things that I hear most from historic Wheelock alums is the idea that they're concerned about the close-knit community, the high-touch environment that was in existence at Wheelock. And as someone who attended small schools and believes in them as well, I understand that fear. And I'm always excited to tell them that that's what our students here report. And they report coming to BU Wheelock and feeling like this is a sense of home, a sense of it's a place where they have a sense of belonging and a feeling of affiliation. And it's because, you know, first of all, we have amazing staff and faculty here, and many of them came from Wheelock. So it's from historic Wheelock. Our amazing undergraduate advisor won the University Advising Award last year. Our students are eager to tell me how much they feel a sense of home, but they also appreciate having the access to the broader university resources and all that a research university can provide. So I'm excited to work with all three alumni groups, not only in ensuring that they feel their identity is intact, but also to build toward an even more powerful future together. So,
Yeah. So that's a great point about the three alumni coming together, the two that we inherited, the one that we are forging now, and try to have this kind of like tripartite, the strength in numbers, the strength in connections, bringing the best parts of all the institutions, building on what's connected. And so I wanted to, as we talked about the passing of the torch, is now that you have been introduced to the community in a different sort of way, and being thankful for being able to be part of that introduction and getting to know a little bit more about you, about your research, and definitely your philosophy. As a dean, I wanted to give you the opportunity to not wait until saying hello to everyone here next time we do a a conversation with the dean, but also to close us out with the last word.
well, thank you, Tony. I would love to talk with everyone on, or who'll be listening after, because I understand that we're recorded, Tony, to say that my role as a dean is to amplify the impact of our college, and we do that. I do that in partnership, but I also do it by raising our visibility. And I think what's happened since the merger, sort of chapter one of BU Wheelock, if you will, is that there's been tremendous growth. There's been so many examples we can point to of impact. And to enter into the next phase, the chapter two of BU Wheelock, is to heighten our visibility, to take it up a notch, to make sure that the nation and the world are aware of the amazing work that we're doing. Because as we elevate our work, as I work hard to elevate our reputation, we have access then to visibility can breed more connections and more resources, which we can then invest back into our impact. So as we think about disrupting systems, especially inequitable ones, to improve the world around us, if we think of that as a spiral so that we're constantly reinvesting, my job right now is to help lift it all, especially through heightened visibility. So I would just invite our alumni, our faculty, our staff, our students to help us with that charge, because that's where we're headed. We're going to do even more great things together. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for taking time to speak with us. I know that we didn't get to everyone's questions, but this is the first of many conversations. I hope you join us for our next month conversation. There's a what is it called? A QR code there. The upcoming topics are pressing issues that we are all facing, both here in Boston, but also around the world. AI in education, digital learning, career readiness, social media and youth, adolescent literacy, multilingual learners, and more. So be on the lookout for emails given details on when all of these conversations are going to be held, and I will pass the mic over to the new dean, so that she can put her own spin on this important conversation platform. And just want to say thank you all for joining. Thank you all for staying involved and connected to BU and BU Wheelock. We value this connection. We hope that you will be able to visit us both virtually and in person over time, supporting our students, our faculty, with everything, whether your support, your time, your links, your likes, your repost, because we're making a bigger impact day by day. Here at Wheelock, we're going to be applying for everything. We're going to be going for everything. We're going to be part of different kind of conversations that are setting the tone of policy and practice, not only around the Commonwealth, but the country and the world. We're going to be making those connections, and we're going to be using those connections to actually show what we do here and how we can lend the best kind of guidance best kind of guidance to navigate the most difficult situations and tough questions that we have. So thank you again for joining us. Penny, thank you for being so open and honest in your questions. And look forward to working with everyone going forward.
And Tony, thank you so much. Thank you for being willing to jump in. And as we turn to the tables here, I really appreciate your being a part of our faculty and the work that you do. I hope we have a slide here that will show your latest books. And yes, here we go. Really so proud to call you a colleague here at BU Wheelock, and just appreciate your willingness to turn the tables today, Tony. So thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks, everyone.